Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Navigating IIBA Certifications in 2025, presented by our Director of Business Solutions at Watermark Learning, Dr. Susan Hiedorn. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I will be assisting in moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll now hand it over to you, Dr. Hiedorn.
Thank you so much, Mariela. Well, welcome and happy 2025. I cannot believe it. Almost a quarter into this century. So time flies. And today we're going to have fun with navigating the different certifications that IIBA offers. And so it looks like we have a really good group coming in, and everybody maybe made your New Year's resolution of, oh, I need to get my IIBA certification. So welcome, and thanks for being here. So just a couple things to note. This is just some housekeeping things before we get started. Our next session will be March 7th. At noon Central Time. So if you want to rejoin us, or if you have some friends that are looking at IIBA certification, they're more than welcome to join us. We certainly have all kinds of flexible training, including on demand and in person, virtually, and we can also come to your organizations. The key thing that I would really want to point out here is, just want to make sure everybody can still see my screen here. My little green bar went away. That we offer, if you take a class with us, 30% off bundle. What does that 30% off bundle mean? It means that what we offer is a 30% off your exam and your application fee if you're taking CBAP and CCBA. That's the only ones that have application fees, but 30% off any exam that if you take a class with us, and a 1-year free membership. So that is really nice to consider. So if you sign up for any class, you can go online to our website and take the option of adding the bundle. I know it does seem like it's like, oh, it's going to cost a little bit more, but you get 30% off of that application fee if applicable, and 30% off any exam that you take, and a year membership for any exam. And it's a really good deal. It's a really good deal. Not everyone offers that, so we are in exclusive club there. Also, once you get your membership, or maybe you already have your membership, check out those resources at IIBA's Knowledge Hub, because they have great white papers. They have the business analysis body of knowledge online, very interactive. They have all kinds of templates. So it's really, really good resource if you're just getting started, or even if you've been a BA for a long time and you just want to see what other resources are out there. So I'm just going to put a little plug in for them. Check it out when you get time. Upcoming classes. We have upcoming CBAP and CCBA starting January 13th through the 16th. Kind of nice to get started off on the right foot. And then February 24th, 27th, and April 21st, 24th. ECBA, the more entry level certification is January 27th through the 29th in April. We don't offer that as frequently as the CBAP, but a lot of people, and you'll see this shortly, are really interested in it. The CBDA, which is the data analytics, is going to be offered February and June. And then we do also offer AAC. The numbers aren't as big with that area, but we do offer video on demand, so that you can do a kind of self-paced learning if you do want to take that certification. And we do, and we'll talk about it later, but we do offer resources to help you study also. So with that said, Yes, we will be. Natasha, thank you for the question. I have a question that this is an introduction. Can you please explain each certification? Yes, I can, because that's what we're going to go do next. After just maybe you know what I'll do. We were going to do a poll real quick to see what certifications people are interested in, but this might be a time to introduce you to the certifications first, and then be able to do the poll a little bit later and find out which ones you're interested in taking. So moving forward, there are core certifications called IIBA core certifications, and then there's specialty certifications. The specialty certifications are around agile, data analytics, product ownership, and cybersecurity. These are their mainstay. These are the first ones that have come out. And the first one came out in 2006, which is CBAP, which is that you need a number of years of experience. And same with CCBA, which is kind of a mid-level business analyst. And then ECBA is for anybody new, just trying it out. That came out in 2016. So let's take a look at each one of those in a little bit more detail. CBAP, again, their first one, is for business analysts who have 5 or more years of practical BA experience. Maybe you're a CCBA, you don't have to be. You do not have to take them in order. You do not have to be an ECBA before you can be a CCBA, or CCBA before you can be a CBAP. You take whichever one makes most sense to you. If you have the experience to do a CBAP, I would say do that. If you have just enough experience to do CCBA, I would expect you to do that. Take that exam. Seasoned BAs, BA consultants, trainers, you need 7,500 hours in the past 10 years. So it's quite a lot. And you do not get any credit. Like, I know if any of you have your PMP, they give you credit for having a college degree. IIBA does not. It doesn't matter. I happen to have my doctorate. I still needed 7,500 hours in the past 10 years of actual experience as being a business analyst. And expertise in the knowledge areas. We'll talk about what the knowledge areas are in a second. But you need 900 hours plus in 4 of those knowledge areas. And then you also need professional development hours. Professional development hours include business analyst classes. That's about all that you can really qualify for those professional development hours. The nice thing is if you do take our class, we do have the 35 hours that you need. So if you take our certification prep class, your hours are already covered. You don't need to worry about taking a bunch of other classes on business analysis for your professional development hours. You have 2 references. We'll talk about references in a little bit, what a good reference is. You sign a code of conduct. You have an application fee. And like I said, if you take our bundle, you get 30% off of this. Their basic application fee only for CBAP and CCBA. Other certifications do not have an application fee. It's $145. And then the exam fee, the first number you see here is member pricing, and the second number is non-member pricing. So again, if you take a class, you can actually purchase that bundle. So you'd get 30% off of this even. But it does behoove you, whether you take that bundle or not, to get a membership, because the membership, if you take the membership and the exam fee, it's actually, I think, a little cheaper than the non-member fee. So it's worth getting. Plus you get all those extra benefits. Yes, and Natasha says, for those of you who don't know the acronym, this is the Certified Business Analysis Professional. And CCBA is the certification of capability in business analysis. And the ECBA is more of the entry certification in business analysis. So we tend to, if you look at the website, they do have the full name out there if you're interested in that. So CCBA, again, 2 to 3 years of experience, current You might be a current ECBA and maybe you've already developed some experience, so you want to take that. Again, you don't have to take them in any order. Non-BA consultants trainers, so 3,750 hours in the past 7 years, so a little bit less than CBAP and 3 years less. And then you need a minimum of 900 hours in 2 of the knowledge areas or 500 plus in 4. And you need 21. What we've done though is combine our CBAP and CCBA exam together. Just because they're very similar, except for the different types of questions. And we'll talk about the differences in the questions, but the material is all the same. So you still need references, code of conduct, and obviously the pricing. ECBA is to anybody who wants to just know about business analysis. Maybe they manage business analysts. Maybe they're interested in moving into business analysis. Maybe they've been another role in a project. So there's all kinds of people who actually, and it's really getting more popular, who want to be able to, just know a little bit more, maybe know the terms, the concepts, key concepts and stuff like that. So that's an entry level BA. You don't need work experience. You don't need so many hours. You don't need professional development or references. You just need to sign a code of conduct. And then, of course, the pricing is a little bit lower for that. So when you're thinking about, okay, now which one do I need to take? Besides, you have to meet the eligibility criteria. The exams are different also. So for CBAP, that's the one where you needed the most criteria, eligibility criteria. It's a case study. So the case study is a number of paragraphs you have to read, and then you might have 4 or 5 questions, 3 questions possibly with that case study, and it'll be around that case study. So you'll have a case study, kind of a situation in 1 to 1.5 pages. And then you'll have a question about something that relates to that case study. And you might have 2, 3, 4 questions around that case study. The questions are multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. There's just one answer per question. You get 120 questions, but because it's a case study and you have to read and scroll and then determine, the answers to each of those questions, you get 3.5 hours to do that exam. Scenario-based, a CCBA is more scenario-based. There's scenarios also in CBAP. But there's scenarios. In this case, there's just a paragraph. It's a situation. As a BA, what would you do here? Or what would you suggest? Or what technique would you use? Or what would you do first? What would you do next? So it's situations that a BA might find themselves in, and then they want to know, okay, this is a situation, what are you going to do? And multiple choice again, A, B, C, or D. There's 130 questions, so 10 more than CBAP, but you can only get 3 hours to do it. Again, you don't have to page through and scroll through a case study. That's only in CBAP, so these are more scenario based. And then ECBA is, again, for entry level. It's competency based. Multiple choice, A, B, C, D, only 50 questions in 1 hour. So this is more about knowledge and terminology. What technique would involve somebody shadowing somebody else, and then you would say, oh, observation. Or what, technique would you use here? What would you use there? So what word is this a definition of? Not that they say it exactly like that, but you get kind of the gist of the types of questions. So here is, remember when we said you have to be eligible, you need 900 hours plus in each of the knowledge area, or so many in knowledge areas, or 500. This is the business analysis framework. It's just chunks of things that you have to do as a business analyst, and they put them in kind of buckets, categories. They put them in categories of like things together. So you have a planning category, you have a elicitation and stakeholder collaboration category, you have requirements lifecycle management. How are you going to manage the requirements? And those are kind of your 3 outer areas, kind of more support. And then you have a strategy analysis category, which involves understanding the problem, defining the problem, current state, future state, how are you going to get there, kind of those pre-project things. And then requirements analysis and design definition is usually a lot of effort is spent during the project, documenting the requirements in whatever format they need to be, doing requirements architecture, verifying and validating the requirements. It's pretty much the care and feeding of requirements at that point. And then solution evaluation is kind of that towards the end of the project or post-project, is evaluating the solution to make sure that it got the value that we thought, because you should do a project to meet the value. So those are the 6 areas. Somebody asked, Ruchi said, CBAP 120 questions are spread around how many case studies? They intersperse case studies and just scenario questions, and it depends on the exam that you get. Sometimes there's 4 to 6 case studies, and the rest are scenarios. But again, the case study might have 3 questions, might have 4 questions. It just depends on what mix of questions you get. So if you sign up for our course, does that include the exam fee? The exam fee is sort of included. You'd have to sign up for the course plus the bundle. It's another line item on our checkout page. And then if you purchase both of them, you would get a special code for the exam, and you get 30% off of that. So then it would be included in the price. So I'm trying to monitor the chat. So if you have any questions as we go through, just let me know. So kind of the blueprint, it's like, well, what would I have to know? What would I have to study for? So ECBA again is entry level. And this tells you the percentage. This is from IIBA. They tell you what percent of questions out of the total will be from each category. And we converted them to the number of questions because percentages don't really tell you too much. So there's 50 questions we know in ECBA. So if you take the percentage, we've kind of marked them here. So and all of these 1.0, 2.0, 9.0, those are chapters in the BA-BOK, the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, which is the source of all the questions and all of the knowledge that you need to understand to take that exam. This is like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 9. So this tells you, business analysis and BA profession, just, you'd probably get a definition of what is a business analyst, or what is business analysis. So, and then key concepts, they have a lot of different concepts. The different types of requirements might be in there. So that's 2 to 3 questions. Underlying competencies, there's certain competencies business analysts need to be able to be good business analyst, strategic thinking, systems thinking, problem solving and negotiation. There's competencies we need to know as BAs, and there's 2 to 3 questions on that. And that kind of, the stuff in the competencies chapter kind of makes sense. So you usually read through it and most people are pretty comfortable with what it has in it. The techniques is a little daunting. I'm sorry to say they have 50, count them, 50 techniques, and some of them are more grouped in categories. So sometimes one of the 50, you could have actually 2 techniques included in the one technique. So there's 8 or 9 questions, and the questions are basically going to be, what would you call, or what elicitation technique would you use if you needed to talk to someone? Oh, interviewing. Okay. I mean, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Planning and monitoring. If you look here, so there's going to be questions around business analysis, planning and monitoring, elicitation, collaboration, requirements lifecycle management, and requirements analysis and design. They took out questions for strategy analysis and solution evaluation. Oftentimes, because strategy analysis is pre-project, And solution evaluation is post-project after the project gets done. And if you are a entry-level BA, oftentimes you don't get too involved in the pre or post-project. You're just involved on the project, so they took those questions out. For CCBA and CBAP, and this is an exam blueprint that is actually from IIBA, and it says NA here, and I just really want to point this out to you because this is important. Even though they say NA, that doesn't mean you don't have to know it. Because what they did is they took these questions in chapter 1 to 9 and 10, incorporated them into those main knowledge areas of business analysis, planning, and monitoring, elicitation, collaboration. So you look at like this 36, for instance, requirements analysis and design. Some of those, that 36 or 42 questions are going to be around techniques because there's a lot of technique questions. And I've had people in my class who didn't pass the exam and said, well, they said NA on the techniques. And it's like, well, yes, there's not specific questions, but they're questions in the category. So part of this 42, part of this 36, part of this 26, all of them have technique questions embedded in them. They just don't have them separated. So just to note, and there's going to be a couple of competency questions, but usually, again, they're pretty self-explanatory. I don't know that there's too much on the key concepts and profession. So I just want you to know, even though IIBA puts NA there, they've taken that data and questions and put it into this section of groups. All right, so CBAP, CCBA application steps, download, go to IIBA.org, download the handbooks. They change every so often, and they don't always tell us, as we're a knowledge provider of theirs, a premier provider of all things IIBA. And they don't always tell us either when they update. So make sure that you download and review those handbooks because that will be the latest and the greatest. Make sure you fulfill your eligibility requirements because you have to have, so many hours, professional development hours. And again, our class will cover you on that. But if you don't take our class, which is just fine, then you have to go somewhere else to get it. Certainly work history, making sure that you have the work history you needed, and that only includes business analysis hours. You can't count project management hours. And 2 references. Now, the thing about references is, because a lot of times I'll be teaching in class, somebody goes, can you be a reference for me? And as much as I'd like to help you out, I can't. Because they have to have known you for 6 months, be a CCBA or CBAP, or a career manager or a client. A lot of times if you're a consultant, I was in consulting for many years. I didn't have really a career manager, so I had to get my client or another CBAP recipient. But they had to have known you for more than 6 months. If they haven't, it's not a good reference. You got to pay for the application. And again, if you take our bundle and purchase that at the time of the class, you can purchase a little bit later too if you think about it more. And it's like, yeah, maybe I should do that. We do allow that. It's just a little bit more rigmarole for you. But you pay the application fee. If you get our bundle, we'll give you a code. And then you just pay the difference. Log in your eligibility details. There's a development log that says, okay, here's all my hours, here's all my projects, here's what I did. Agree to a code of conduct, submit the application, and you receive an email really, really quickly. They will say whether you are approved or not approved. Generally, they do audit some of the applications. You never know who they're going to audit. It's just they have this algorithm, and if something looks funky in your development experience or your professional development hours or whatever, they may flag it to do an audit, but they will get back to you in probably at least in 3 weeks and say, hey, this is the stuff that we need from you in order to be able to have you sit for the exam. So they do some auditing there. Once your application is approved, they'll tell you, it's like, hey, you're approved, you're good to go. Then you're going to register for your exam. So again, go to online, review the exam rules, system requirements, make sure you have a system. It's got to have a camera, because if you're doing it, in your home, they got to be able to see you, make sure where your eyes are going. They make you, turn your camera, make sure you're not cheating. There's nothing on the walls to give you all the answers. The the exam is so daunting anyway. I don't know that you'd have time to look it up even if you wanted to, but those are the rules. So make sure you look at the system requirements, make sure that you can get into, they use PSI testing center. You can take CBAP and CCBA in a testing center because they're so long, 3.5 hours and 3 hours. And you could also take it virtual as well, but all the other hour exams are just only virtual. So you pay your exam fee, you schedule your exam when it makes the most sense, when you're most alert. Most of the time we tell people, I'm a very much a morning person. I'm much more alert in the morning than I am by 2 in the afternoon. I'm a little dragging. I don't want to take my exam at 2 in the afternoon. I'm going to take it bright and early as soon as I can in the morning. So you take the exam and yay, get certified. You do have 1 year from your application date to take the exam. So let's say you were today, you got approved to take the exam today, January 3rd. You have until January 3rd, 2026 to be able to take the exam. I suggest not waiting, because then you have that over your head and then it's just kind of a mass cram. But sometimes I've had a couple of clients who have done that, and just because life happened, that unexpected things happened, and they had to wait till the last week before they could actually get to the exam. So if possible, I would say don't do that, because it puts you kind of in a bind a little bit. You don't always want to wait for the last minute. All right, tips, prep tips. And this is for CBAP, CCBA. Read the BA book at least twice. There's some really good stuff in it, but you need to understand the cadence, the rhythm, the terms they use, because this matters, because they're not going to be testing on what you know and your experiences and the terms you used in your organization. They're going to use their stuff. So you really have to get an understanding of how they put things, what words they use, and the meaning behind them. You can certainly supplement your study with watermarks. We got a prep class. We also have a study guide, which takes the BOK and puts it into more of a, what would you say, living, breathing document. Because when you read the BOK, it's really a good book if you want to go to sleep, because it's so dry. It's just data point after data point after data point. And the study guide gives you, everyday examples. What does this mean to you in your organization? So it just makes the BOK come to life. And sometimes it's helpful to see it through another person's eyes, and it kind of it has that light bulb moment. It's like, oh, this is what they're trying to tell me. Okay, I get it. Study tables, you can make your own study tables. We also have study tables. You can purchase flashcards, same thing. And online practice exam questions, if you can at least get some practice questions, that is helpful. Study one chapter at a time. Study well, usually 100 hours. For the CBAP and CCBA, not for any of the hour-long specialties or ECBA, but it usually, and I've been teaching CBAP for probably a long time, at least 10 years. People have reported back it usually takes 2 to 3 months to study. And unless I've had some students now take it in, oh, I took the week off, I'm just going to study. Well, if that's all you have to do, you don't have anything else to worry about, it can be done. But most people have a life and, a lot of other distractions. And so they can only study in small spigots, and some people find that better, they retain it better, in smaller pieces. So really depends on your own self. Of course, use the practice questions to check your knowledge, and then of course take the exam. So we talked about the core certifications. Now we're going to talk about specialty certifications. So the first one, and this is in order of years, the first one that came out was Agile analysis. So being a business analyst in an Agile environment. And this is a really good certification for those people who do that. There's no eligibility, there's 4 domains. There is a guidebook. Instead of the business analysis body of knowledge, they call it the Agile Extension Guide. They still have scenario-based questions, much like CBAP, or not CBAP, CCBA. Multiple choice, 4 answers, 85 questions, you get 2 hours to do it. And all the certification exam fees are all the same. They used to be all different, and people get confused. And so they said, okay, let's just make it the same across the board, which was really nice. Then came out the business data analytics. So this is for business analysts who want to be in data analytics, are in data analytics. It recognizes their ability to be able to support the data scientist and support any data analytics initiatives. They have 6 domains. They do have another guidebook, Guide to Business Data Analytics, scenario-based, again, 75 questions, 10 laughs, 2 hours. And then we have in 2020, which wasn't that long ago, they have added a certificate in cybersecurity. This is anyone who wants to learn about cybersecurity tools or concepts. This was actually in partnership with IIBA Computer Society. And so they actually have their own guidebooks with cybersecurity learning modules. So they have little modules, the concepts broken up into little modules. Again, this is a knowledge-based questions, like do you know the definitions? Do you know what techniques you should use? So 75 questions, only 90 minutes though, little bit shorter. And then in 2021, about 4 years ago, they added the product ownership. So if you're a product owner as a business analyst or thinking about being one, this might be the certification for you. So the product owners, BA professionals, sometimes BAs sit in lieu of a product owner, or they support the product owner. So it just kind of depends. 7 domains, again, they have a guide to product ownership analysis, knowledge-based questions, only 60, and you get 90 minutes. So given that I gave you all of these certifications, and we still have some more information to talk about, I am going to ask Mariella to put up the poll, and I'm just interested in who what is going to take what certification. So she's going to bring that up. Just answer really quickly. Are you interested in CBAP, CCBA, ECBA, AAC, CBDA? These are the ones we offer. And you could just, if you want other, which would include cybersecurity and product ownership, you could just put that in the chat. We have limited number of questions we can ask in a poll.
Awesome. I will give us about a couple more seconds. I think a good majority have thrown in those answers, but if we could get a good couple, oh no, can't answer. Sometimes the polls are a little funny like that, but I will go ahead and end it here. And here are the results.
Wow, so CBAP, a lot of people CBAP, CCBA, ECBA, AAC. I really enjoyed. I'm certified in almost all of them, but I really did like the AAC. CBDA is really interesting also. So thanks, Mariella. Greatly appreciate that. Just kind of nice to know where everybody is today. There was a question from Kelly, can you test out of them instead of taking a course? You don't have to take a course. You can just get the guidebooks, learn it on your own. I always like to do practice questions, and you can purchase our practice questions without taking our class if you want, or you can take someone else's for that matter. Yes, you don't not have to take a class to do that. You do have to take the class if you want the bundle, 30% off bundle. Alan said, what is the percentage to pass ECBA? They don't tell us. And believe me, I've asked numerous times. They don't, well, their answer is, well, it depends on what questions you get, because some people will get harder questions, some people will get less harder, difficult questions. There'll be a different mix of questions, so you could be sitting by each other and have totally different questions. But depending on which ones you get, if you get more difficult ones, your pass rate will be less than the pass rate needed for easier questions. That's what I've been told. So they don't tell you. It's just like PMI doesn't tell you what it takes to pass their exams either. Like APMG, it's very simple. They'll tell you exactly what you need to pass, but they don't. I don't know if they keep it a secret or not. So there you go. Let's see. How many trials do you get to pass? One, and then you can take it again. You can take it up to 3 times within a year. So if you don't pass the first time, you could take it the next day. I'd obviously probably try and study, but you can take it up to 3 times a year. It doesn't matter how much time you have in between. You do have to pay for a reset fee though. So sorry about that. It will cost you not as much, but it will cost you a reset fee. Which of the courses certificates provide CEUs for CompTIA security? I don't know. I don't think any of them do. I know we do provide CEUs through Auburn University, just for any degree. So if they will accept that, then of course it'll apply, but nothing directly. Yes, the presentation will be sent to you after the class, which Mariella had stated. So thank you for that. It's always interesting to find out what people are really, certifications are interested in. And I thought, well, maybe I should go through them first so that you can determine whether you're interested in them or not. Registering for any of the ECBA or specialty exams is a little different process. Of course, get the appropriate guidebook handbook, you will need that. Pay for the exam because you don't have an application fee. Agree to the code of conduct certification. You don't need any references either. Certainly you should study though, but it doesn't take that long to study because they're just, not that long of exam, 2 hours max, 90 minutes, and so all of them are only done virtually. And it doesn't take 2 to 3 months like CBAP or CCBA, but it does take some time to study. So I would say at least a week. Review any of the exam information on IIBA.org or PSI's online proctoring information, which you can get off of IIBA.org just to make sure, do I have the equipment? Do I have, the settings that need to be there? Are there any ADA accommodations? I believe there are some. I would get in contact with both IIBA.org and PSI, which might refer you to IIBA.org. We actually last year I was working with someone who was blind, and they were able to pass the test, but we had to do a couple hoops. But so if you need help, just send me a note. And I'll give you my email, or maybe Mariella, can you put my email in the chat? You're more than welcome. If you have any special needs and you're not getting responses from IIBA, I had to rattle a few trees there, but finally, after a number of months, which hopefully your situation won't take that long now that they've had it, but we got it done, and this gentleman passed the exam. I was so excited. I mean, it was just great. So we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Schedule your exam and take the exam and get certified. So yay. So tips. Study well, like anything else. Read any corresponding guidebooks or ECBA. You know, you have to at least read them so you know the terminology that they're talking about. We do have study aids that you can just, you know, if you don't say, Susan, I want to take the class, I can't afford the class, or I don't want to take the class, or I don't have time to take the class. And you want some of our study aids, you can buy them individually. You can individually buy our practice questions also. And then if you try those practice questions and you get 70 and better, you're probably pretty good to go on the exam itself. So testing tips, and this is for any of them. Don't dwell on any questions. So the first pass, you can just mark and skip them. Now here's my Susan's take on that. A lot of people, because people always tell me, well, you know, because if you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what is the answer to this question? You just took up a half an hour thinking about one question, you didn't go further. You don't want to do that because you're going to run out of time. So just flag it. You can flag those questions. What I suggest people do is read through it, and even if you're not sure, it's like, oh God, C or D, C or D, C or D. Oh, I think it's C. What I do is I make my first guess. I flag it so I can look back at it if I have time, but at least it's answered. Because my thing is that sometimes, you know, and I've had a lot of certifications, probably too many, but you know, you get to the end and just going, oh, I don't have time. But at least I've answered it. Even if I have time to go through the flagged ones, that's great, because then I can double, you know, check. Because sometimes you start thinking about things once you get into it. It's like, okay, I didn't remember, you know, number 2, but by the time I answered other questions, now I go back to 2 and say, oh yeah, Susan, what were you thinking? But I always mark, at least I have something. And you know what? If you mark something, it's at least 25% chance of getting it right. And generally, our brains will just at least put it down to 2, like C or D, C or D. That's 50% chance. So that's even better. So, and again, if I go through it again and I flag it and I only go through the flagged ones because I'm done with all the other questions, and maybe I'll go, oh, Susan, it's D, yeah. So then I can change it, but otherwise I usually generally leave it because my first inkling is usually correct. But you can go, that's why I say just mark what your initial gut reaction, flag it so you can look at it again. But at least if you don't have time, you got something marked, and because if you don't, it's wrong. So that's just a Susan tip after all my certifications. And then review the skipped ones. Don't second guess yourself, because sometimes we try and outthink ourselves, and that is never a good option, because I've also proctored a number of exams, and oftentimes people change a right answer to wrong. So just make sure, is it really wrong? Narrow it down to 2 options. Guess, like I said, guess a few months. Don't change your answers unless you really know. It's like, well, that's what were you thinking? That's obviously wrong. And observe, you know, your progress, because they'll have a time counter there, and they'll, you know, you look and go, okay, it's 2 hours long. I've got an hour, and I'm, you know, out of 50 questions, I'm on 28. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Okay, so for ECBA, and the product ownership and CCA, read each question carefully, read the answers, select your final one. For CCBA, AAC, and CBDA, who do not just knowledge questions, but they're scenario questions, they're situational questions. You're a BA, what would you do here? What technique would you use in this situation, etc. What I do is I read the scenario and then I read all the answers because sometimes I'm thinking, oh, I think it's B. But then I don't go down to D, and D might be a better answer because sometimes they're close and you want to get the right one. So I'll read the question, the scenario, I'll read all the answers, and then I go back up and read the scenario. And it's like, okay, and then I ask myself, what is the question they're really asking? Because sometimes they have stuff in there that they're not really asking about, but it's fluff. So it's like, what is the question that they're looking for? And I can kind of glean some of that because of the answers that they give me. And I go, okay, what are they really asking? Okay, so I'm going to pick this. So that helps me do my final answer. In CBAP with the case studies, I read the case study. I actually skim it quite quickly. Then I read the question and all the answers. And then if I need to go back to the case study, I'll reread the case study. But generally, it's just, I don't usually need it too detailed unless there's a scenario going, what was the situation again? And I might go up and read the case study. So that's just some testing tips. Resources, and again, you can go to watermarklearning.com and some of these resources are available for your purchase, so you can get the study guide. Like I said, that kind of takes the BA box, which is IIBA's document, and breathes life into it, I think. Study tables kind of just gives you a high level view, which are really great. I need that big picture on how everything fits together. If you're like me, those study tables are wonderful. Flashcards, you can make your own or you can purchase some. Online study exam questions, same thing. A lot of people just get our online study exam questions just so they can practice. ECBA resources, there's a book on how to talk BA, basically terminology, which sometimes helps you study for the exam too. Study tables, flashcards, again, online exam. AAC resources, flashcard study tables, and exams, questions. And CBDA, we only have exam questions. We don't have study tables or flashcards at this point. So once you've like, yay, I passed, they will send you a note. IIBA will send you a note. You'll know right away. You'll know right away when you take the exam. They tell you right there. It's like, okay, you're kind of like, ooh, do I want to click? Do I want to know if I passed or not? So you're brave enough. You click. They say, okay, you passed, or you didn't. But then in a little bit later, IIBA sends you an email and it will tell you how you did in each area. So remember we had 6 knowledge areas. It'll say, and it'll just tell you, it doesn't tell you that much, but it's like, let's say on elicitation and collaboration. Did you score lower than most people taking the exam, the same, or higher? And so that'll tell. Sometimes if you didn't pass, it'll tell you a little bit of information on maybe where you should study. It's like, well, because if you get the medium level or higher, you're probably going to pass. But if you get a bunch of lower ones, maybe not, or a lower one and some average ones, you might not pass either. And so you can at least look and say, gee, I better get better at solution evaluation. I didn't do so well there. I got lower than the general population. So then maybe you need to spend some time there. But once you pass, you do have to get some credit hours. Depends on the exam. CBAP and CCBA, you need 60 credit hours for every 3 years. So I have to, go to a conference, or I have to read, or I have to do some volunteer work or something. And for AAC and CBDA, it's every year, which kind of makes it a little pain, I'm sorry to say. The nice thing about having, because I have a lot of certificates. I mean, I have CBAP, I have CCA, or not CCA, AAC and CBDA, that, like, let's say I go to a conference, that can count for a lot of things. It's maybe they covered data analytics, but they also covered some things in the BOC, just general, maybe it was techniques or something, because a lot of this carries over. And so you can kind of get a two for one oftentimes. It's a credit for CBDA, but also credit for my CBAP exam. And then, so CDUs are 1 hour credit. So for 1 hour, you get 1 hour of class. Let's say you went to 8 hour class, you would get 8 CDUs. Let's say you sat through this webinar, you'd get 1 CDU because it was only an hour long. So it's 1 hour credit to each CDU. So you need 20 hours here basically and 60 hours here. And if you look at the recertification handbook, they will tell you what is allowable and what is not. And you just go to your website and drag and drop. It's really, really pretty simple. ECBA, CCA, CPOA, no recertification. So for those of you that were going for ECBA, a number of you, once you're an ECBA, you're ECBA for life. Now, if you don't get the credit hours for the others, you do lose your certification. ECBA, you don't. You're an ECBA for life. So if you don't get these credit, and of course you got to pay a little bit of fee, but you do have to get these every year or every 3 years, or your certification will be lost. So you don't want to take the exam again, let me tell you. So try and avoid that. And then this is just kind of some fun tidbits before we leave. This actually, I put November 30th because that's what they had. And then I realized that these are actually old numbers, or September 30th. But you can still see the growth pattern in here, because I always like to keep kind of the growth, because looking at ECBA, I mean, it kind of came out, we only had 3,000. Now there's over 13,000 within 4 years. I mean, that's commendable. CCBA had 1,000. Well, it's kind of doubled, 3,345. So that not as much. This certainly has doubled. We had 10,000 in 2020, and I'm going to assume that it's at least 22,000. As things going up. Like I said, this isn't really November, it's really September, because I was looking, I was like, wow, those look familiar. And then I double checked, and I didn't have time to update this, but I said, you have the wrong numbers, IIBA. So somebody goofed there. That's where I get the numbers from. AAC, you can see, wow, look at that, 554 to 2,394, very popular. 78 to 696, that's quite a jump as well. Another popular one is product ownership. I mean, that's past the other two, 981, and it didn't come out until 21. Cybersecurity is just kind of a nice, steady, slow growth. So those are kind of the number of recipients. Just some fun facts. Why do people want to get certifications? Every year, IIBA does a survey and collects all this information. It's kind of fun to take a look at it. What are the benefits? Of course, higher confidence, upskilling, finding a job, salary increases, fulfillment of work, improved performance ratings, promotions. Sometimes people, if you get your CBAP or some certification, you might get a promotion, get to that next level salary range. According to the stats, CBAPs earn an average of 20% more than non-certified. Usually you get those benefits within 1 month, at least for first 6 months. And then would you recommend certification to a colleague? And 95% said yes, it's worth it. It's work, but it is worth it. So there you have it. Any other questions that I did not answer, Mariella?
Hello. I will go ahead and give our audience another couple of seconds, maybe another minute to throw any last minute questions in. But I think we got to everything. And just as a reminder, if anyone needs any more information on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com. And if they miss out on any part of the session, we will definitely be sharing this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. We had one come in, a quick question. Do you have to be certified in something else before you get your IIBA CCA?
Um, do you have to be certified? No, you do not. You can just take it. No eligibility requirements. You just pay for the exam and take the exam. I had another one here. Oh, the BA-BAC is free for IIBA members, yes. So that is true. So I just want to make sure that as a member, all the guidebooks are downloadable. And, you can print them if you want, or you can just leave them in electronic copy. But they are free to members. Otherwise, you have to purchase them if you're a non-member. So that's another great benefit of being a member.
Great to know. And I believe you got to this one, the ADA accommodations.
Yep.
Just want to make
Yep.
sure. Awesome, awesome. And then I heard you talk about the CDU. Can you provide examples or for acceptable versus not allowed for a CDU?
Um, well, it depends on which certification, I'm sorry to say. Um, things that are allowable is like volunteer hours. Like I was a big volunteer for many years, and so I would get, 10 CDUs for the year for my volunteer. Speaking, creating course materials, doing a presentation counts, taking a class counts. Again, 1 hour per year effort. Um, that's pretty flexible actually. Teaching others, maybe in your organization, you do a teaching moment, a brown bag teaching moment, that, oh, this is what I learned, or this is what I read about. Let's talk about it. You can get credit for that. So it's quite I would say substantive. I would just say download the guidebook because sometimes it changes too. Download the guidebook to recertification from IIBA.org, and they have all the, pages and pages of what you can get for CDUs. And any others?
I think that'll do it for us. But we had a lot of great feedback and a lot of awesome tips. And thanks for the presentation. And so I think that is actually perfect timing. And I will definitely close it here. Um, Thanks all so much for joining us, everyone. And thank you so much, Dr. Hiedorn, for all your insight today.
Oh, Jeff had one more thing, cost of membership. I'm going to guess at this. I think it's about $145, but I'm not positive. So if you go to IIBA.org, they have it listed there. I just would put in membership fee, and then it'll come up because sometimes it's hard to find it under the menus. Oh, thank you. Somebody looked it up, 139. There you go. And this webinar would count as one CDU because it's been an hour. For PMP certification, it's
Probably one,
possible
right?
because there is a BA certification as well for that. PMI has their own BA certification, mostly for project managers, but that doesn't mean to overlook it. It's another certification. Yeah, PMI PBA is what it is. Yes. All right. Well, you all have a wonderful 2025. I can't believe I'm saying that. And have a great year. Hopefully we'll see you
Absolutely.
in class.
Yes, we will. Thank you all so much for joining us and have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. Bye for now.